What's going on, folks? This is Hispanic Wrestlers You Should Know, sponsored by Premier Pro Wrestling. It's being brought to you on YouTube by PPW Live. So today, and I'm going to fucking honor because I really like the guy. Nelson Erazo, you would know him as Homicide. And he had such a following before he even made it to mainstream television at ROH, and he earned that shit, you know. So I'm going to tell you some things about Homicide that you may know, may not know, in regards to, his accomplishments and some stuff about his personal life. Then I'm going to tell you, when you subscribe to PPW Live, my personal interactions with him and why I love the guy. I can honestly say I fucking love the guy. I don't have to talk to somebody all the time, or I don't have to fucking be BAE or besties with them or text them and all that shit all the time to love somebody. And I was with this guy in the trenches at TNA. TNA was such a nightmare to work for, and it was when everybody thought it was just the next big thing. And, you know, right is right, wrong is wrong. And this is why I love fucking Nelson, why I love fucking Homicide, because wrong is wrong. You know what I mean? He got integrity, he's got a conscience, and smart. The only reason this guy never made it as a Gigantor star is only because the bigger companies were afraid of him. He's about the most well-traveled son of a gun I know for his age. He went everywhere and anywhere that you could actually work, guys. And pay dues like a son of a bitch. The other thing is, he brings his sense of right and wrong into this wrestling industry, you know. A native of Brooklyn, Erazo was a wrestling fan from the age of 5 and decided that he wanted to become a wrestler at the age of 15. After amassing a series of athletic qualifications, including football and amateur wrestling, he was offered a scholarship to the University of Miami, which he rejected, preferring to pursue fast money. He trained himself as a wrestler in a bodega, debuting in March 5th in 1994 after wrestling for 3 years without any formal training. He attended a professional wrestling school in New Jersey operated by Manny Fernandez. Do you see what I'm saying? You yarders at some point, or you idiots, or you guys who say, I'm a veteran, I've been around 10 years, but you spent 7 years training yourself and with other idiots that train themselves. You should talk to Homicide, who will tell you how shit is. Because he went and he got trained and he became not just technically sound in that ring, but really a fucking genius when he worked with Manny Hernandez. Now, Nelson, Homicide, don't let the fucking size fool you. He is not big by wrestling standards, okay? But he's a tough son of a bitch. And he can shoot, he can high fly, he can hard hit, he can do anything in the ring and work with anybody, you know? And that's the value of a professional wrestler, is to be able to work with anybody, any shape, size. And soon what's coming down the pike, I'm sure we're going to see a lot of this intersex type stuff. You know what I'm saying? But Homicide, and just an attribute to him as a trainer or as an agent, because he's making chicken salad out of chicken shit, working as an agent for NWA. I know this because Matt Vine is working there and he's putting Nelson over. And I told him, glom on to that guy. When PPW first started, PPW had a backer with a lot of money. And no matter what your agreements say, I learned it from Jerry Jarrett, the golden rule always applies even when you have the facts written down, because the one with the gold rules, because they'll kill you in court even though they signed away their rights. They didn't sign away their rights. You understand what I'm saying to you? When it started, there was some money behind it. And the guy was extremely wealthy. He was 80 years old, which was in some ways easy to deal with, but in other ways hard to deal with. And I saw his age being a factor at the time. But what I wanted to do when I saw what the indie climate was, and this is after not being exposed to the indies for a couple, 3 years, working with TNA Impact or TNA and down in Puerto Rico for IWA, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. So the first thing that I wanted to do, and this is what Tony Khan effing should have done and should have been thinking, is guys to work with these guys and teach them in the ring the same way Nelson was brought into this industry when he became fucking great. I was going to hire at the time you could do it, Nelson, and I was going to also hire Spanky, Brian Kendrick. And let me tell you, as player coaches, as bookers, as trainers, you had the Angel on one side, which would be Spanky. Arguably, Spanky can be difficult, but the point I'm trying to make is their approach with people. The Angel on one side, which would have been Spanky, the Devil on the other side. I'm not saying he's evil or any of that shit. He's just a tough son of a bitch that he can't lie to you. He can't soft soap it to you. He can't. He just can't. He doesn't possess that ass kissing, nut swinging gene, man. And I'm talking about Homicide. So between Brian Kendrick and between him on the other side of the scale, the other side of the spectrum, you had Homicide, Nelson. Prospective young wrestlers could not be in better company and have better guidance. You know what I'm saying? All right, guys, I'm going to do a shitload more about Nelson, about Homicide, who's an outstanding human being, an outstanding performer, a tough kid with integrity coming out of the ass. He's a guy that gives, man. The motherfucker gives. He gives in that ring when it's warranted. If the guy he's working with is great, and in life he gives and he doesn't expect the same in return. But when you give back in return, or you give him more, it even comes back to you threefold. The other thing I love about Nelson is that he's a Puerto Rican who's very familiar with the island. He's actually a New York Rican, but he's very familiar with the island and has made several trips to the island. And later on, if you guys subscribe to PPW Live, when I do the full thing on Homicide, I'm going to tell you about when a young, small Homicide actually smacked a predator who tried to say inappropriate, do inappropriate shit to him. The other thing is I know, and we'll talk more about that, in PPW Live, I don't know if it's still there, but he's got some heat with Kid Cash. Kid Cash disrespected him in some manner. And let me tell you, if I was Kid Cash, I'd be really grateful that I live down south in Johnson City, Tennessee, and Homicide still resides, on the East Coast of New York City. Don't forget, guys, subscribe to PPW Live. You're going to hear things and perspectives that you've never thought of, but also things that you don't know. I consider Homicide a friend. I don't care how long it's been since I've seen him. I will always consider him a friend, somebody that I respect and I believe also respects me. So, PPW Live, you can see the link in the description there, and then also help support Premier Pro Wrestling at Pro Wrestling Tees, all in the description.